Well, Ambassador, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm just a little curious, and I have always found quite intriguing the visit of top-level envoys like this. What influence do you think that they exert in a political climate such as ours?
I think in our own case, a lot, considerable, because you have to realize that the diplomats on the ground, particularly at this point in time, do a lot of reporting back to headquarters. And headquarters analyzes these reports. And then if you are dealing with a country that you have particular interest in, it becomes almost imperative that you need to begin to reach out in order to ensure, number one, that you have a complete understanding of what's going on in that country. And when you have a country as big as Nigeria, with all its problems and apprehensions about the future of the country itself, it becomes even more critical for some nations with great interest in Nigeria to pay attention and begin to reach out to the leaders in order, with the hope that they could moderate where they think that there are a lot of problems. You remember what happened in 2015. The then Secretary of State, John Kerry, was here for about 3 or 4 times. And you could see that in some ways he actually assisted the opposition, because anytime he came into the country, he was always meeting, with the opposition and, also talking to the government. I guess they were trying to ensure that there was a peaceful end to the fears that was expressed then. So it's almost about the same situation.
But how strong do you think, from the countries that she's listed, a threat do we face from those countries?
Well, I'm not too sure the kind of threat we are faced with from Russia. Mm-hmm. Russia has a plate full right now, and I'm not sure that. Look, let's be fair. Ukraine is Russia's main headache right now, and certainly not Nigeria. The choice of Iran is curious, for me, and if anybody asks me, as you're doing today, to say, where should we expect interferences from? I'll probably list the United States. I will list, United Kingdom, and of course, I will list the EU. These are the three, the country and the countries that have tremendous interest in this country.
Not China?
The way the Chinese play a different game. They are not as, how do I put it now? They are not as, they do their own behind the scene. They just keep watching, but they know where they're interested in. And there's this, once everything settles down, look, there's this, they move in and then begin to cultivate a new relationship. They don't get involved in trying to decide who wins or who doesn't win. That's not the Chinese style,
Now, some people will say that 2015 was a different type of election. But before now, before 2015, we had at least maybe 4 different polls before the 2015 election. What sort of influence did we see then, apart from the interest of having the polls becoming more free and fair, perhaps supporting the umpire, et cetera, in that regard? What other sort of influence did we see these countries which you have mentioned exert?
Not as much as in 2015. Look, the fact that they were supporting the empire, supporting NGOs, because they pour a lot of money into NGOs for elections in this country under various guides. That's also interference, but they do.
But should we differentiate between positive and, adverse interference? In
terms of comparison, I think in the first time around, that was 1999, mm-hmm. I personally believe that the choice of President Obasanjo, whom they already knew long before, he was released from prison and made a presidential, gave them some comfort. Which was why you did not see so much, interference, open interference, as, I think it gave them so much comfort. And also because the people they were dealing with at that time and those who were responsible for the transition also gave them a lot of confidence that they were going to manage this thing, you know. And perhaps the most critical thing is to say that the country then was not as it is today. Today is a completely different situation, which is worrisome, not just for us in this country, but for everybody that cares about Nigeria.
Well, for them, I mean, it is their prerogative to offer support. It is our prerogative to receive the support. And it would seem that there have been different reactions to their support over the years. In 2015, President Buhari was said to have lauded the role of the United States in the elections. I'm going to read something he said to outgoing Ambassador James Entwistle at that time. He said, the U.S.'s insistence on free, fair, and violent-free elections largely contributed to the deepening of democracy in the country. He says, as you settle down in the face of these developments, it is my hope that you will also be guided by diplomatic practice to ensure that your activities remain within the limits of your profession as you monitor the build-up and conduct of the general elections next year. So sometimes it will look like how a government perceives the support, or maybe support that is going to come, will depend on just where they are at that particular time. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, too, was not very welcoming of U.S. support in 2015.
You know, when you were reading both, I was smiling. It just shows you how countries, presidents, or leaders change when situation, you know, changes. They respond to it. In 2015, Buhari was appreciative of the role the United States played at that time, more because, you know, as I said at the start of our conversation, the Secretary of State, John Kerry, made about 3 or so visits, you know, to Nigeria, including one he made particularly, which was very controversial, to the Sultan of Sokoto in this country. And every time he came, he met with the opposition party. Every time he came, he met. In fact, there was one he did. I think he only stopped in Lagos, met the opposition party leaders, and left. And look, the optics was that the United States was supportive of a change of regime in this country. What Buhari is saying this time around is,
yeah,
folks,
but didn't the environment also give the feeling that that was a possibility?
Yes, that was a possibility. But what they are now saying is, hey, look, we don't want so much, you know, we're in control, we are in charge, things are, quote unquote, almost saying things are normal. So don't create that impression that things are abnormal in this country. So 2015 is different from 2023, and that's exactly what's reflected in the president's speech.
It is interesting just how, but for the populace, because how politicians also receive this, it will be very different from how people who are looking forward to free, fair, and credible elections would receive this sort of support. As Nigerian citizens, should we welcome more of this type of support, or should we say, well, we think we're getting to a point where we think we can manage this on our own?
Look, this is not in your control. Every country plays this game based on its own national interest or perceived national interest. And for countries that believe that they have a lot at stake, or they have relationships that they do not want to destroy, or they just want to see a stable Nigeria for so many reasons, they will remain interested in what goes on in this country. And it is when they perceive that need to intervene, that's when you begin to see them send envoys. And that's also based on the reports they are getting from this country. I know for a fact today that envoys on the ground have written so much about the primaries, and they're all excited about this. So everybody is reporting home, making all sorts of analysis and permutations as to how the outcome would be. Once they perceive that, look, they need to intervene, they will intervene whether you like it or not. They will insist on coming to the country. They will insist on coming to talk to the president. They will insist on coming to talk to some opposition leaders, you know, again, urging everybody to respect the rules and to play in a way and manner that the country will not disintegrate.
Well, Ambassador Keshi, thank you so much for coming on Hard Copy.
As always, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.